A large Carthaginian army is camped on the outskirts of Himera, on a hill, awaiting orders from their commander to attack. But surprisingly for everyone, the Greek defenders decide to send their troops up the hill. It certainly seemed to be a very serious mistake, especially since they had fewer men. Stay with us, as today we will take a look at one of ancient history's forgotten battles that served as an example of the wise use of strategy to turn the course of history. It is 480 BC, and King Xerxes of Persia has launched an invasion of Greece, which will soon go down in history with the Battle of Thermopylae, where King Leonidas of Sparta will sacrifice himself along with 300 of his best warriors. However, at the same time, Carthage has decided to take advantage of the situation, and knowing that the Greeks will not be able to send reinforcements, they decide to send their men to Sicily to capture one city, which is under Greek rule. But to understand this war, we must go back 3 years. Although the Greeks have managed to colonize and form many settlements throughout the Mediterranean, they were not organized as an empire but as independent cities, many of which fight each other. In the case of Sicily, the dominant force is in Syracuse, whose leader is the tyrant Gelon, who has successfully expanded his power over the neighboring cities, such as Gelon and Canon. At the same time, he has formed an alliance with Theron, the region of Acragas, and the two have married their family members to strengthen their bond. Obviously, the surrounding cities are concerned about the power accumulated by Syracuse, and for this reason, the regents of Messana, Himera, and Selinus form an alliance with Carthage, who at this time has under control the cities of Panormus and Lilybaeum. However, this was not enough to stop the allies, and very soon, Theron managed to capture Himera and expelled Tyrillus, the tyrant of this city, who asked Carthage for help. This set the stage for what would be known as the First Sicilian War. The answer came 3 years later, when the Persians began the invasion of Greece. It is worth clarifying that there is no evidence that Carthage had an alliance with Xerxes, but they simply decided to take advantage knowing that Sicily could not receive reinforcements in case of an invasion. The Carthaginians sent a force of about 35,000 men under the command of Hamilcar I, but a storm caused them to lose all their horses and chariots during the journey. Despite the losses suffered on the high seas, the Carthaginian was undeterred, and having full confidence in his numerical superiority, opted to march his men along the coast, with his fleet as support to resupply his soldiers with food along the way. His ranks were composed of nationalities from all over the Carthaginian Empire, from the heavy African infantry to many Libyan, Sardinian, Gallic, and Iberian soldiers. Upon arrival, the local forces tried to defend themselves and repel the enemy advance, but were quickly defeated in an open-pitched battle where the numerical superiority was evident, and Theron had no choice but to entrench himself in the city awaiting for reinforcements. For his part, Hamilcar ordered the construction of 2 camps, one on the beach next to the ships and another near the city up a hill, where he would have most of his infantry. Aware of the need to get horses for his men, the Carthaginian sent emissaries asking for reinforcements to his Greek ally of Selinus. Shortly thereafter, Gelon arrived with reinforcements and camped on the opposite side. The bad news was that the combined strength of the allies was not enough to engage the enemy. While the figures are based on estimates, it is believed that the Greeks had a total of 20,000 men, meaning they were at a distinct disadvantage to the 35,000 invaders who had just arrived. To make matters worse, Greek reinforcements had just arrived as cavalry at the beach camp. No doubt the Carthaginians were fully confident that they had every advantage necessary to recapture the city, possibly by siege. But to everyone's surprise, the Greeks decided to attack uphill, something that did not seem very intelligent, not only because of their numerical inferiority, but also because attacking in this way would put them at a disadvantage. The infantry garrisoned in the camp responded promptly by sending their troops to engage the enemy, who lost several men as a result of the initial charge since gravity was in favor of the defenders. Shortly thereafter, the other group garrisoned in the town under Theron's command decided to join in the attack, and were again engaged by the enemy infantry. The prognosis indicated a quick victory of Hamilcar's forces, since little by little the Greeks were falling dead in great numbers in front of the advance of the Carthaginians, who were imposing themselves without major problems. But to everyone's surprise, in the distance, large columns of smoke began to be seen coming from the Carthaginian ships. This caused great confusion. What was going on? How was it possible that there was fire on the boats? Sabotage, perhaps? Had some traitor within the ranks infiltrated and was executing a sinister plan? To topple it all, news came that Hamilcar had died. This caused great concern, which quickly turned into panic. But to understand what was happening, we need to go back in time, a few days earlier, to the moment when Gelon arrived with his reinforcements. Hamilcar had sent emissaries to Selinus, asking them to send him horses and cavalry to assist him in his campaign, as he only had infantry due to losses suffered while sailing to Sicily. It is not known exactly how, whether the emissary was intercepted or if a spy tipped Gelon off. But aware of his enemy's plans, the Syracuse leader sent his own cavalry to pose as the reinforcements Hamilcar was expecting. The order was simple: infiltrate the enemy camp and wait to strike the right blow. Once it was confirmed from Himera that the Carthaginians had let them in, Gelon and Theron initiated an attack. The objective of this initial clash was to distract the infantry to gain time and allow the Greek cavalry to cause as much damage as possible in the enemy camp. This way, even if they lost most of their men, the rest of the attackers would be in serious trouble because of the damage caused to their ships, which they needed to receive food supplies. By attacking uphill, the failure of the offensive was guaranteed, and soon hundreds of soldiers died in the first hours of the battle. It is said that when Hamilcar was about to make a sacrifice to his gods, he was quickly attacked and killed. After this, chaos reigned in the camp on the beach, and the Greeks proceeded to destroy everything, burning the ships and attacking as many men as they could find, who were not prepared for the surprise attack and fell victim to the enemy swords. As for the main battle, the men began to beat a disorganized retreat at the sight of the huge hills of smoke coming from their ships, and to make matters worse, knowing that their commander was dead, many lost all hope and tried to flee. Some successfully managed to board ships that had not been hit by the flames and sailed away. It is said that these ships were hit by a storm shortly thereafter, and all the crew died. As for the Carthaginian infantry, a group of men managed to take refuge on a nearby hill, but lacking fresh water and food, they surrendered soon after. All those who were captured alive were sold into slavery. Incredibly, despite being at a huge disadvantage, the defenders managed to prevail. The price was high. Thousands of Greek soldiers lay dead on the battlefield. The Battle of Himera was the only one fought during the First Sicilian War, and it was a total defeat for Carthage, who agreed to pay the sum of 2,000 silver talents as compensation for war reparations. The cities reinforced their defenses in anticipation of what seemed to be an imminent invasion that would establish Greek rule over the island. But it did not happen. For the next 70 years, Carthage held off and avoided intervening in Sicily, focusing its efforts instead on North Africa. Over the next few decades, Greek culture would flourish on the island. Gelon of Syracuse, along with his allies, held all the power as the strongest tyrant. But this would not last forever, and after his death, just 2 years later, his heirs would begin to fight each other, resulting in the fragmentation of their domains, which would start the Second Sicilian War, but that will be the subject of another video. If you are still here, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment to confirm that you have survived the battle, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. We would like to thank all of you who join us in each new animation we publish. It is with your support that we are still here. We would appreciate it if you could share our video with your friends or on the different social networks to help us get more followers. And if you buy us a coffee on Patreon, we'll include your name in the credits of the next chapter. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.